everyone. I was requested in one of my programs that involves meal plans if I could show the different ways that you can make cauli rice at home. A lot of you can actually now buy cauli rice in the store pre-made, but it can be expensive, or there's those of you who just like the process of doing it, or there's also those of you that can't find that locally, but you can buy whole cauliflowers. So this is just a simple video to show you 4 different ways that you can go from this to this with simple appliances that you have at home. So this is our end result to make cauli rice. So we've got our cauliflower, and actually somebody who shares a kitchen with me and will remain nameless took some of my cauliflower. So that's, I didn't buy it like this, that's why it's a little remodeled. Pretend that that bit's still there. Anyway, so here we have our cauliflower, and we're gonna rip off, cut off, whatever you want to do. I normally find it's easier to do it in layers, however you do it. I'm going to cut the leaves off. And I actually, because someone who shall remain nameless took some of my cauliflower, don't have a ton of cauliflower left to work with, but that's okay, we'll make it work. So if you have appliances, that's the easiest way to do it. But I'm also going to show you ways if you don't have appliances. So there's our, I'm going to show you this side because this side still looks like a cauliflower. So here's our cauliflower, and we're going to use a food processor, which is the easiest way to get beautiful cauliflower rice if you have one. So now this you're not all going to have the same one as me. I will link to this one in the show notes so that if you're looking for a food presser, you'll know which one I use and love. All of these are going to be similar. So in this particular one, I'm using one of these discs, and so you're going to want the center thing, which simply elevates the disc to the top of the bowl. Now this one is dual, so you can use it both ways up. If you use it this way up, you're going to get very, very fine, shredded, whatever. If you turn it that way up, you're going to get bigger. So you want to make sure that the blade size you want is up. And then you're going to put that on there. She says you're going to put that on there. There we go. There we go, okay. With the big blades up. And then you put the lid on, make sure it's on at both ends, because these things are designed, because they're dangerous if used incorrectly. If the lid's not on properly, it probably won't work. So it's important to have it on properly. This particular one has various funnel things. Also, the unit will not work if these are not all in, and that is to protect you from inadvertently processing your hand. So then, because I don't have a lot of cauliflower to work with, I'm just going to cut off a few of these just to give you an idea of how it works. One thing you have to do is you do have to cut the cauliflower into pieces small enough that will go in your funnel. So you put those in there. You will find that you need to push down, and then I also find it better to pulse rather than to turn it on. And There's the rest. And there you have, I don't know if you can see it, there you have your riced cauliflower. Very simple, very fast, but it does mean that one, you have to have one, which not everybody does, especially people in small spaces, and two, you do have to clean it. So for those reasons, there's disadvantages, but especially if you're processing a lot of cauliflower, if you're trying to make a ton of cauliflower rice, this is one of the fastest ways to do it. So that was one way you can do it if you have a food processor. And now I'm going to show you another piece of kitchen equipment that is not a food processor that you can use to make cauli rice. Okay, so this time we're actually going to use a blender. You can see I have my blender here, and this isn't a fancy blender. This isn't a Vitamix. This is another way that you can make cauli rice. And this way, actually, I had never done this. It was my video producing partner in crime, Mr. Yogi Parker, who told me that this was the way that he processed cauli rice when he was on the truck using a blender. So we've got our blender. What we're going to do is we're going to cut off some of our florets. And again, I don't have much to work with, but we're going to work with what we have. It's just the technique that you're learning here. So we're just going to leave it at that. We've got our cauliflower in here, and then what you want to do is you want to put enough water just to cover the cauliflower. Okay, so we've got our cauliflower, however much you have in here, water just to the same height as the cauliflower. Make sure you put the lid on, otherwise you're going to have a mess. And then you're going to pulse it. If you turn it on, you are going to have cauliflower puree. So you just want to pulse and hope that it works, which it's not. So you can see I only pushed that twice and it's already mostly there. So this is why it's better to pulse it, not to turn it on, because you'll end up with puree. So there, that was 4 pulses. I don't know if you can see, I have cauli rice there. So the next part of the blender method is to get a sieve. Still dripping. You'll need to let that drain for a while to get all the water out, but you can see there that you have your cauli rice. So that's method number 2. You now don't need to be upset if you don't have a food processor. You can simply use a regular blender by using that method, and it's also a lot less work to wash up a blender jug than it is the entire food processor with the blade and all the bits. So that is another option for you. Now, number 3, if you have a box grater, you can also make cauli rice with a box grater. And again, although this is, but you're going to have to watch your knuckles, and it does take a bit of work. But you just do it like cheese. So if you do not have any electrical equipment, just be very careful when you get to the end, because mind your fingers. But you can see you totally get cauliflower rice just by using a grater. It does take a bit of work, minimal amount of washing up. There's the risk that you might injure yourself on the grater, so please be careful. but that is the non-electrical way to turn your cauliflower into rice. You may have to work a little bit with the ends, carefully using the flat piece of your hand, but you can see how you can get perfectly nice rice that way. And then the fourth way is to simply use a knife. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut off this stalky bit here, and I'm going to cut my florets off, and I'm just going to cut them in half to give me flat surfaces so my cauliflower is not rolling away. And then I'm going to get a bigger knife because it'll be easier. This is a chef's knife. A chef's knife is deeper at the blade than it is the handle, so that when you use this motion, you're not smashing your hand on the top. If you try and do it with a knife shaped like that, you're going to smash your hand and it's just going to be hard and annoying. So a chef's knife is the best knife to use for this if you have one. And then you're just going to get your florets, which have a flat side so they don't move, and you're simply going to chop and just keep chopping until you've got your cauli rice the same. And the action, if you can see, is you put the blade up, you put this hand on the blade, and then you rock, and then you turn. The point of the blade stays where it is, and you pivot the knife in an arc. And you can go really quite fast, and then you just keep going with that motion until you've got your cauli rice the size you want it. Move that aside, bring in the next batch, cut your pieces so you've got a flat surface, point down, chop in an arc until it's the size you want. So again, this takes the most physical effort. This will also take you the longest, but there's almost zero cleanup. And you also, if you're in a very small space or you have minimal equipment, this is, you don't have to be without cauliflower rice. You can absolutely make it at home in your kitchen with nothing more than a knife and a cutting board. And I won't keep going because that's not exciting video. But there you go. 4 ways to make cauliflower rice at home: your food processor, in a regular blender, using a box grater, or simply using a knife. Enjoy!